Imagine waking up one morning and noticing a suspicious spot on your skin, a mark that, within months, could threaten your life. Now imagine a new treatment, one that claims to slash your risk of cancer returning by nearly 70%, stepping onto the global stage just as cases are quietly climbing worldwide. What if this therapy isn't just a medical breakthrough, but a financial game changer, a multi-billion-dollar battle of giant pharma, and the tip of the spear in the next revolution against cancer? Today we're diving into the story of Regeneron's Libtayo, the clinical drama that's shaking up the world of cutaneous squamous cell carcinoma, the second most common form of skin cancer, and the storm of opportunity, risk, and money swirling around it. Will this new approach really save more lives, and at what cost? And what does it tell us about the future of disease, technology, and the multi-billion-dollar business of survival? First, let's step back for a crash course on this cancer, the global stakes, and the science and money behind this revolutionary therapy. Cutaneous squamous cell carcinoma, or CSCC, has long stood in the shadow of its more infamous cousin, melanoma. Yet, according to recent studies, its incidence is rising even faster than melanomas. Some epidemiological models forecast an annual increase of between 2.4% and 5.7%. That may not sound dramatic, until you realize that globally, CSCC-related deaths have jumped a staggering 151% from 1990 to 2021. The world is waking up to a sleeper threat. But here's the kicker. About 30% of cases are missed each year due to incomplete registrations and misdiagnosis. The true burden is bigger than we think, and for patients, every misstep can be fatal. For decades, the mainstay of CSCC treatment was straightforward: cut it out. Surgery, followed by radiotherapy for tougher cases. In most scenarios, this worked. But for everyone at high risk, the elderly, the immunosuppressed, those with tumors that love to come back or travel elsewhere, this standard leaves a terrifying gap. As Dr. Danny Rishan of Australia's Peter MacCallum Cancer Centre summarized, while surgery and radiotherapy remain the cornerstones of treatment for high-risk CSCC, there is a critical unmet need for systemic therapies to help prevent relapse and metastasis to ultimately drive better outcomes for patients. That brings us to this revolution, immunotherapy, and the horse race of the world's biggest drug makers to capture this exploding market. Immunotherapy drugs, especially the so-called checkpoint inhibitors, have already rewritten the rules in diseases like melanoma and lung cancer. They work by flipping off the brakes that cancer cells exploit to hide from our immune system. When these brakes are released, the body's own immune army can attack tumors, often with stunning results. Enter Libtayo, also known as semiplimab. Cleared by the FDA back in 2018 for advanced CSCC, it's an engineered antibody that targets PD-1, a key switch on immune cells. Since its debut, Libtayo's impact has only grown, winning further approvals in other cancers and breaching the blockbuster sales threshold last year. A blistering 41% growth, hitting $1.22 billion. For Regeneron, this drug is more than just a cancer treatment. It's become a strategic pillar. And the competition? Formidable. MSD's Keytruda, another PD-1 inhibitor, has dominated immunotherapy across oncology, racking up billions in sales and approvals in everything from melanoma to lung cancer. In the shadows, new entrants like Checkpoint Therapeutics' Unloxit, cosabelimab, are pushing forward, with cosabelimab just clinching a crucial FDA approval in December 2024. But it's not just about saving lives. As researchandmarkets.com points out, increased emphasis on cancer survivorship drives growth in the Libtayo market. This treatment explosion is a business as much as a medicine, and the reward for cornering the CSCC opportunity could be staggering. Which brings us to the latest bombshell, the CPOST study, an international clinical trial that's rewriting expectations for adjuvant therapy in high-risk CSCC. In data recently unveiled at the world's top oncology conference and published in the New England Journal of Medicine, Libtayo, when given after surgery and radiotherapy, achieved a 68% reduction in the risk of disease recurrence or death compared to placebo, an 80% drop in local recurrences, and 65% fewer cases where the disease crept to distant organs over 2 years. To put it simply, Libtayo offers hope for turning a deadly recurring disease into a much more manageable condition. Numbers like that are rare in oncology. As Dr. Rishan, the trial's lead, remarked, semiplimab achieved a remarkably high bar in improving DFS disease-free survival in high-risk CSCC, potentially setting a new global standard of care. Yet controversy is bubbling below the surface, because while Libtayo soared, Keytruda, its biggest rival, flopped in the very same indication. In the Keynote 630 study, Keytruda failed to prove benefit as adjuvant therapy in high-risk CSCC. Why did Libtayo succeed where Keytruda stumbled? Meanwhile, the patient pool for adjuvant therapy is much larger than for advanced disease, and for now, Libtayo enjoys a rare window with almost no major competition. Keytruda, despite its market muscle, is still shut out. Commercially, this is seismic. But regulators and doctors are not just rubber stamping the hype. The CPOST study's data showed that 87% of Libtayo-treated patients were disease-free at 2 years, compared to only 64% with placebo. The overall survival trend also favored Libtayo, 94.8% versus 92.3%. But experts caution that longer-term data are still rolling in, and overall survival is what will really sway public health decisions. Here's another twist. Libtayo's impact appears to hold regardless of the tumor's PD-L1 status, a biomarker often used for patient selection in immunotherapy. This opens the door for treating a much broader group of patients, further driving potential usage, but it also raises questions about how best to personalize therapy going forward. Behind the scenes, the financial stakes are escalating. In July 2022, Regeneron paid nearly $900 million to buy out Sanofi's share in Libtayo, giving it full control over the drug's future and every dollar in its growing sales pipeline. As one analyst bluntly put it, whoever controls the front line in CSCC controls a rapidly growing, underappreciated market. But not everyone is convinced that this is a slam dunk. Dr. Sapna Patel, a senior oncologist, cautions, it remains unclear whether the adjuvant treatment paradigm for melanoma should be followed in CSCC. Put simply, the idea of copying one cancer's treatment playbook for another could backfire. Each cancer has unique biology, patient populations, and resistance patterns, a fact underscored by regional variations in practice highlighted by Dr. Axel Hauschild. Treatment for cutaneous and basal cell carcinoma varies globally. And while immunotherapies like Libtayo and cosabelimab promise a new era, emerging therapies, like TIL or tumor-infiltrating lymphocyte therapy, are coming fast, potentially changing the landscape yet again. Add to this the risk of immune-related side effects, sometimes severe, and questions about how to identify who really benefits most. The pressure is on to find reliable biomarkers, to refine adjuvant strategies, and to avoid overtreatment, all while racing against an epidemic of rising cases and mounting mortality. The market is watching. Libtayo's blockbuster ascent, Keytruda's stumble, cosabelimab's ambitious entry, and the continuing global surge of CSCC paint a picture of high-stakes innovation, competition, and uncertainty. For Regeneron, the next years could make or break its immunotherapy ambitions. And for patients, doctors, and investors, one question looms above all. Can Libtayo truly deliver on the promise of transforming high-risk CSCC from a stealth killer into a manageable disease, or will unknown risks and surging new competitors disrupt Regeneron's carefully laid plans? In the second half, we'll dive into the fierce race for regulatory approval, the looming challenge of new immunotherapies, and the ethical, financial, and medical dilemmas that could decide who wins this fight and who pays the ultimate price. But first, let's ask, what does it really take for a new cancer drug to set a global standard, and how might tomorrow's breakthroughs reshape not just CSCC, but the very business model of cancer care? As we peer into the next phase for Libtayo and the entire field of cutaneous squamous cell carcinoma treatment, several intriguing and at times unsettling factors come into play. What's clear is that the story is far from settled. Regeneron may be riding high today, but the landscape is shifting beneath their feet. First, let's talk about what's coming next. After the stunning results of the CPOST trial, Libtayo has set a new bar for adjuvant therapy in CSCC. With a 68% reduction in risk of recurrence or death compared to placebo, and huge gains in disease-free survival, the headlines are deservedly bullish. But deeper in the data, there's a critical point. The key secondary measure, long-term overall survival, is still under evaluation. Will these early gains translate to more patients living not just recurrence-free, but truly longer and healthier lives? It's the kind of question that keeps both oncologists and pharma shareholders awake at night. The regulatory process is already in motion, with filings in the US and EU. If the approvals come through as expected, Libtayo could rapidly become the global standard for high-risk patients undergoing surgery and radiotherapy. The commercial potential is immense. Blockbuster sales are likely to grow as more physicians become comfortable with adjuvant immunotherapy and as patient populations rise, a trend epidemiologists warn will continue, with CSCC incidence climbing between 2.4% and 5.7% annually. But of course, Regeneron's lead is not unassailable. Cosabelimab, a PD-L1 inhibitor recently approved by the FDA, posted a nearly 47.4% response rate in advanced CSCC cases. With Sun Pharma's acquisition of Checkpoint Therapeutics, we're likely to see even greater marketing muscle behind Cosabelimab in the coming years. Keytruda's failure in the same indication, ironically, may create an opening for newer, nimbler competitors. As Dr. Jason Luke noted, objective response data from the CK-301-101 trial supports Cosabelimab's approval, challenging the notion that a single therapy should dominate. And then there's the specter of innovation. Tumor-infiltrating lymphocyte, TIL, therapy is advancing rapidly. Unlike checkpoint inhibitors, TL therapy harnesses a patient's own immune cells, drawing them out of the tumor, supercharging them in the lab, and infusing them back into the body. Early results in other cancers have been nothing short of spectacular. If these methods can be safely adapted for CSCC, today's excitement over Libtayo may seem quaint in a few years. It's not just about new drugs. Personalized medicine is looming larger too. Gene expression profiling is being developed to help pinpoint which CSCC patients are truly at high risk for recurrence or metastasis, and who might safely avoid the heavy guns of immunotherapy. This could ultimately shrink the eligible market, forcing companies like Regeneron to rethink their strategies. Every groundbreaking drug brings risks as well as rewards. Immune-related adverse events, though rare, can be severe, sometimes life-threatening. There's also the threat of resistance. Some tumors adapt to escape the immune system's reach, leaving patients with few options. As Dr. Sapna Patel warned, it remains unclear whether the adjuvant treatment paradigm for melanoma should be followed in CSCC. There's a real danger in assuming that yesterday's success in one cancer translates cleanly to another. Then, we mustn't forget the practical realities that can upend the best-laid plans. Misdiagnosis continues to plague CSCC, with roughly 30% of cases slipping under the radar each year due to incomplete patient registration. More than ever, multidisciplinary teamwork and clear treatment guidelines will be essential to ensure patients aren't left behind. The stakes are high. Between 1990 and 2021, global mortality from CSCC shot up by 151%, a chilling reminder that the battle is nowhere near over. For Regeneron, the business chessboard is as dynamic as the medical one. Their $900 million acquisition of Sanofi's stake in Libtayo signaled a doubling down on immuno-oncology. But as the market grows, so too does the temptation for new entrants. Big generic players, smaller biotech disruptors, and sprawling pharma giants are all circling, eager for a slice of this rapidly expanding pie. But what does all this mean for patients, families, and indeed for you watching this video? First, for anyone touched by skin cancer, these advances offer real hope. 10 years ago, there was no truly effective systemic therapy for advanced CSCC. Surgery and radiation were the only options, and recurrence rates were uncomfortably high. Today, immunotherapies like Libtayo and Cosabelimab are rewriting the rules. Patients who would have faced a grim prognosis now have a chance at remission, at years lived tumor-free. If you or a loved one are diagnosed with CSCC, it's absolutely vital to seek treatment at a center with multidisciplinary expertise. The field is evolving rapidly, and the most cutting-edge centers are more likely to offer access to the latest clinical trials, including those testing new immunotherapies, TIL therapy, or combination approaches. Don't settle for a single opinion. Complex cases benefit from tumor boards that bring together dermatologists, oncologists, surgeons, and radiation experts. As a proactive patient or family member, ask your care team about molecular diagnostics and gene expression profiling. These tests may soon help tailor your treatment more precisely, sparing unnecessary toxicity and costs, while maximizing your odds of beating the cancer. For clinicians and researchers, the lesson is clear. Stay on top of the data, and don't assume today's gold standard will last. Clinical guidelines are being rewritten almost annually, and what's best in class today may be eclipsed by a combination therapy, or even a novel approach, within just a few years. As Dr. Axel Hauschild puts it, treatment for cutaneous and basal cell carcinoma varies globally, and sharing knowledge across borders and specialties is crucial to closing the survival gap worldwide. To the business-minded among you, take note. The Libtayo success story highlights both the rewards and hazards of innovation in oncology. Strategic acquisitions and aggressive R&D can yield outsized returns, but the window of market exclusivity can slam shut fast in today's competitive, science-driven environment. Companies need to balance investing in breakthrough drugs with careful monitoring of new entrants, emerging science, and changing regulatory stances. As researchandmarkets.com noted, increased emphasis on cancer survivorship drives growth in the Libtayo market, but that growth can stall overnight if newer, better options emerge. For health policymakers and advocates, this is a clarion call to improve cancer surveillance, early diagnosis, and equitable access to new therapies. The fact that CSCC incidence is rising even faster than melanoma, yet is more often missed or misclassified, suggests that public awareness about prevention, screening, and early referral remains urgently needed. Improving patient registration in cancer databases will not only save lives, but also give us the data required to judge if these new expensive therapies are truly delivering value. So, let's return to the central question. Can Regeneron hold its lead? Or will the lure of innovation and the harsh realities of cancer care topple this breakthrough from its pedestal? After reviewing the evidence, the answer is, for now, Regeneron stands alone, but the clock is ticking. Libtayo's dramatic clinical results and lack of direct competition from Keytruda in this adjuvant indication give Regeneron a rare window of advantage. The company has demonstrated agility, from acquiring partner stakes to forging ahead with regulatory filings and clinical trials. Their commitment to adjuvant therapy in CSCC is raising survival expectations for thousands of patients worldwide. But no lead is forever. The rapid rise of cosabelimab and the deep pockets of Sun Pharma ensure that Libtayo will soon face stiff headwinds. The next era will be defined not just by drug efficacy, but by the ability to integrate innovations such as gene profiling, improved diagnostics, and adaptive clinical strategies. The promise of TIL therapy and the specter of immune resistance will force all players to keep pushing forward. The real winners, we hope, will be the patients. The lessons for all of us? Keep asking questions. Demand multidisciplinary care. Watch for clinical trials and new approvals. These may open doors to therapies that just a few years ago seemed like science fiction. For investors and industry watchers, don't get complacent. Oncology is the most disruptive and most unpredictable field in medicine. And here's a secret fact that few outside the expert world realize. Even with today's advances, nearly 1 in 3 patients with CSCC are never properly registered in cancer databases, meaning the true scope of the crisis, and potentially the effectiveness of new therapies, remains partly hidden. Imagine what could be achieved if every patient was counted, tracked, and treated with the best technology available. So, if this video helped you understand the fast-changing world of skin cancer therapy, or if you have a loved one facing these decisions, please like, subscribe, and share this with others who might benefit. Your engagement helps us reach more people and drives coverage of the medical breakthroughs that matter. If you have questions or would like us to cover another hot topic in cancer research, drop your thoughts in the comments below. Your voice helps shape our next story.